John 12, 1-11. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he'd raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." When the great crowd of the Jews learned that he was there, they came not only because of Jesus, but also to see Lazarus, whom he'd raised from the dead. So the chief priests planned to put Lazarus to death as well, since it was on account of him that many of the Jews were deserting and believing in Jesus. Well, welcome to Monday of Holy Week. I'm Mark McCracken, chaplain to Anglicare WA. We stand beside more than 42,000 vulnerable West Australians each year around our state. Individuals and families who are struggling because of homelessness, food insecurity, family and domestic violence, and many other traumas. So perhaps it's not too surprising that I homed in on Jesus' words today about the poor in our text for today. You'll always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. Several times throughout history, this statement by Jesus has been quoted as something of an excuse for terrible social situations. During the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, "You will have the poor always" was something of a mantra when responding to social reformers who could see terrible social and economic things happening all around them. In the face of terrible deprivation and suffering, Jesus Christ was quoted in a way that suggested the poor were part of the natural order of things. An endorsement from the Son of God that this is the way the world's ordered, the way the cosmos is. There will always be winners and losers, and by implication, that's okay. It's just the way of things. When we believe this, the hard response is to manage the poor, to make sure they do the right thing and don't misbehave. The compassionate version is that we need to ameliorate their lot and make their lives as bearable as possible. When I hear those two words from Jesus, I'm struck by two things. Firstly, this isn't just about structural inequality. It's about priorities, particularly those which relate to things of the Spirit. Mary is taking the better path, embracing the immediacy of the divine presence as she encounters it through Jesus. Offering all she has is an outpouring of love and service. Seeing with clarity the path that Jesus is walking down in this Holy Week towards his death and burial. Judas doesn't get that. For him, it's about raising maximum return for investment, making the money last and preferably grow it, rather than wasting it on frivolous display. His vision clouded by agendas other than those that will bring him closer to the life God would have for him. The Gospel of John here is warning us against chasing all of those things which will rob us of the life that God would have for each of us too. To turn away from self-centered obsession and to look to the other. To worry about the truly important things such as devotion and love, grace and righteous living, being just. And yes, I do hear a call to justice. Jesus seems to be quoting from an Old Testament passage from the book of Deuteronomy here. Deuteronomy 15:11. When Jesus quotes this phrase, he isn't condoning poverty. He's reminding us of Deuteronomy's message that God actually hates poverty and has commanded us to end it by forgiving debts, by outlawing slavery, and by restructuring society around the needs of the poor. Rather than stating that poverty is unavoidable and predetermined by God, he's saying that poverty is created by human beings, by their disobedience to God and their neglect of their neighbour. I can't but hear Jesus use a particular tone of voice when he replies to Judas's chiding. In a voice filled with resignation and disappointment, he says, "You'll always have the poor with you, but you won't always have me. You'll always have the poor because you people pursue unhelpful and unhealthy agendas, obsessing about wealth and aggrandizing the wealthy, blaming those who's caught up in the gears and unable to escape their situation. You'll have the poor because as a community, you live worldly values that aren't fully human. If only you embrace the values embodied in the reign of God, no one would need to suffer because they were vulnerable or poorly educated or born in the wrong country." I have come a long way from a few words from Jesus. As someone who lives in the world of social justice and sees the effects of poverty on human dignity, I'm very sensitive to the issue. But I do know that we only have the poor because we've gone astray as a community, as the human race. We put me and mine first, mostly from a fear that we'll miss out, that we won't have enough, even when we know deep down there's enough for all. Dare I mention toilet rolls? We have before us a Lenten calling to put our priorities right as individuals and households, as Australians, as members of the human community. How might you take that on board? How might you seek that which gives life and honours God's call to us to be fully human and fully alive? A prayer to finish. Creator God, you love the world into life. Forgive us when our dreams of the future are shaped by anything other than glimpses of your reign of justice and peace. Amen. God bless and keep you.